You lie down. The room goes dark. Your body melts into the mattress. And then your brain decides this is the perfect moment to remind you of something embarrassing you said in 2009. It does not matter that you are exhausted. It does not matter that tomorrow is a big day. The moment you try to sleep, your mind turns into a theater, running a double feature of regret and anxiety, with no intermission and no exit. You've probably wondered why this happens. You have probably assumed it means something is wrong with you. But here is the thing. It does not. In fact, what happens inside your brain the moment your head hits the pillow is one of the most revealing and counterintuitive discoveries in modern neuroscience. And once you understand it, you will never lie awake the same way again. Your brain is not broken. It is doing something ancient, something that was almost certainly keeping your ancestors alive while they slept under open sky 10,000 years ago. Here is where it starts. During the day, your brain is constantly flooded with input: light, sound, conversation, movement, tasks, deadlines. That flood of external information occupies the neural networks responsible for processing the outside world. Your attention is anchored outward, which means everything else, every unresolved worry, every uncomfortable memory, every half-finished thought, gets pushed to the back of the queue. Not solved, not gone, just waiting. The moment you lie down, the external flood stops. The lights dim, the sounds fade, your body goes still, and suddenly the queue has no competition. Neuroscientists call this the default mode network. It is a web of brain regions that activates when you are not focused on the outside world. Marcus Rachel, a neurologist at Washington University, first identified it in 2001. He expected the resting brain to go quiet during downtime. Instead, it lit up. The default mode network was more active during rest than during tasks. The brain, it turned out, was never actually resting. It was running a completely separate operating system the moment you stopped paying attention to the world. That network handles self-referential thinking. It runs your mental autobiography. It replays social interactions and checks them for mistakes. It simulates futures, rehearses conversations, calculates risks. It does not care that you are tired. In fact, the quieter your environment becomes, the louder it gets, which is why night is when it takes over completely. But this only explains part of the story. Because if the default mode network were just passively wandering, you would drift through memories and daydreams and gradually fall asleep. Instead, what most people experience is something sharper, more intrusive. The thoughts that come at night are not random. They are weighted. They are the things you have not resolved, the things with emotional charge, the conversations you replayed, the decisions you have not made, the fears you have not faced. This is not an accident. This is architecture. In 2011, psychologist Borkovich at Penn State University published foundational research on what he called worry as cognitive avoidance. His central finding was counterintuitive. Worry, especially the kind that floods in at night, is not the problem. It is the brain's attempt at a solution. When something feels threatening or unresolved, the brain does not want to stop thinking about it. It wants to process it, to solve it, to plan around it. And because you spent all day avoiding the thing by staying busy, the brain is now demanding its processing time. You are not anxious because you are lying still. You are lying still, and the anxiety that was always there is finally allowed to speak. Your brain, at its core, treats unresolved problems the way a smoke alarm treats a gas leak. It does not turn off just because you are inconvenienced by the noise. It keeps alerting until the threat is addressed or until something convinces the system the threat is gone. And here is where it gets older than psychology, older than civilization. Your ancestors did not sleep in soft beds inside locked buildings with climate control and security systems. They slept in small groups on the ground or in shallow shelters. Night was genuinely dangerous. Predators were most active at low light. Rival groups moved in darkness. Disease could take a person by morning. A brain that truly powered down at night was a brain that did not survive. Natural selection did not reward deep, effortless sleep. It rewarded something different, a sleep architecture that included a light, restless phase during which the brain stayed partially alert, a phase during which threat detection remained active, ears stayed sensitive to movement, and the mind stayed loosely engaged with whatever felt unresolved. That phase is what you know today as the hypnagogic state, the transitional zone between wakefulness and sleep. And modern research using electroencephalography, EEG machines that measure the brain's electrical activity, shows that during this transition, threat-related memories and unresolved emotional content get prioritized for replay, not randomly, not accidentally, by design. Matthew Walker, the neuroscientist and sleep researcher at the University of California, Berkeley, argues in his work that sleep is not just rest, but active emotional processing. His research shows that during REM sleep in particular, the brain replays the day's emotionally charged experiences, but strips them of the stress hormone noradrenaline. It processes the memory, it files it away, it reduces the emotional sting over time. But to get to REM sleep, you have to get through that threshold first, and the threshold is where most people stall. Because the brain is doing something that feels intrusive, but is actually necessary. It is queuing the files it needs to process. It is deciding what matters before it begins the deep work. The tragedy is the modern trap you are living in. You are a brain built for darkness and physical exhaustion, running inside a body that has neither. You are not tired from hunting or building or carrying. You are tired from staring at a screen, sitting still, and managing information. Your body has not been physically depleted in the way evolution expected. So the transition to sleep does not happen cleanly. And then there is light, specifically blue spectrum light, from the devices you look at until the moment you lie down. In 2015, researcher Anne-Marie Chang at Harvard Medical School conducted a controlled study comparing people who read printed books before bed with people who read on light-emitting screens. The screen readers showed suppressed melatonin levels, delayed onset of sleep, reduced REM duration, and morning grogginess, even after the same hours in bed. The light was telling the brain it was still daytime. So the brain did not begin the handoff to the default mode network's nighttime processing mode. It stayed in daytime mode. And when you finally forced it dark, it had a backlog. So here you are, lying in the dark. Your default mode. Network running full power. Your unresolved emotional content queued for processing. Your threat detection system doing its ancient job. Your melatonin suppressed by the blue light of the phone you put down 20 minutes ago. Your body not physically tired enough to override the system. And your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, refusing to shut up. None of this means you are doomed to lie awake every night. The research points clearly to what works. Not counting sheep. Not trying harder to sleep. What works is the opposite of suppression. When you try to force the thoughts away, you trigger what psychologist Daniel Wegner at Harvard called the ironic process theory. The more you tell a brain to not think about something, the more resources it allocates to monitoring whether you are thinking about it. Suppression makes the noise louder. It is like being told not to think of a white bear and immediately picturing one. The brain does not process negatives. It processes the thing you were told to avoid. What works instead is brief acknowledgement, not analysis, just naming. Researchers at UCLA found that labeling an emotion, giving a name to what you are feeling, reduces the amygdala's response to it. The act of naming says to the threat detection system, seen, registered, filed. It does not require solving. It just requires noticing. The second thing that works is physical, genuine physical depletion during the day. Not necessarily intense exercise, though, that helps, but movement. Real movement that burns glycogen, raises core temperature, and gives the body a legitimate metabolic reason to push toward deep sleep. The third thing is time. Not the absence of thoughts, but the willingness to let them move. The brain will process. It will replay. Let it. Researcher Calvin Kai-Ching Yu at Shuiyan University has studied hypnagogic imagery and found that the strange, fragmented thoughts and images you experience at the edge of sleep are not intrusions. They are the processing itself. You are watching your own brain file its archive. You do not need to silence the noise. You need to understand what the noise is. So tonight, when the room goes dark and the thoughts arrive, remember this. Your brain is not failing at sleep. It is doing what 100,000 years of human survival required it to do. It is checking the perimeter. It is processing the unfinished. It is preparing the archive for tomorrow. The same mind that cannot let you rest is the same mind that kept your ancestors alive through the dark. Tonight, when the room goes dark and your brain refuses to be still, you will know exactly why.